Welcome to Sports Scouts. I'm Joey Goodsir, and this is our 12th episode at Prom.
Welcome again to Sports Scouts. I'm Joey Goodsir.
Michael Raupp.
And we are recording a brand new episode on Thursday, May 16th, 2019. As you saw with our intro there, we had Prom this last weekend, which was a lot of fun. It was a good night, but yeah, we thought we'd record an intro there. But yeah, so we will talk Tiger Woods, the NBA draft lottery, some serious frustration in New York, both from the lottery and elsewhere. And unfortunately, John Beilein and more. But first, Michael will give you some scout scores.
Yeah, so for the Scouts, the boys' baseball team was defeated by Stevenson 2-1 in their final conference game on Wednesday. The Scouts will host Deerfield Friday in their last regular season home game. Girls' water polo season recently ended in the sectional quarterfinal, and the boys' team also came to an end in the second round of the sectionals against Mourns. Congrats to both on a successful season. Boys lacrosse lost 20-7 to Loyola on Saturday to close out the regular season. Good luck to them in the playoffs coming up very soon. Boys track and field had sectionals today at Niles West, so good luck to them. Pole vaulter Bennett Flynn also recently won the conference championship. Girls soccer had their regionals at home last night. Their next game will most likely be on Friday. Boys volleyball played at Stevenson Wednesday night to close out the regular season. They have regionals at home on Monday. Girls softball had their senior night against Stevenson on Tuesday. They have their regional quarterfinals against Prospect on Monday. Boys tennis had their conference championship in a matchup with Libertyville, and they have sectionals on Friday against Stevenson. Girls lacrosse had their senior night against Evanston on Tuesday and will be in the sectional quarterfinals coming up this Tuesday. Girls badminton finished 12th in state in a four-way tie with four other teams. Doubles group, Nika Bulova and Grace Gerscheidel advanced to the fifth round of the consolation bracket. Congrats on a great season. And girls track and field has state tomorrow, the notable qualifier being junior hurdler Sydney Leonardi, who recently had a big leg injury, but she came back, and congrats on a huge comeback this year, and good luck at state. And then also a lot of seasons coming to an end, Joey, so good luck to all the teams that are going to either state or quarterfinals, whatever they're
I mean, things are coming to an end
coming
there.
up, yeah. So good luck to all of them.
Yeah, that's a huge comeback right at the end there. That was a big one. So thanks, Michael. That was Scout Scores. And if you want more in the latest in LFHS sports, check out the latest articles on the Forest Scout. Let's take a look here at what we got. There's a decent amount of stuff that came out. Shaw came back from his hiatus and got the dugout out. Congrats to him and Casey Murray, two Forest Scout writers on Prom Royalty this week, so that was exciting, by the way. Let's see. We got Stephen Young covering the NBA Conference Finals and the NBA Draft Lottery. Lots of just national stuff. And Danny Fisher covering the PGA Championship, which we will, of course, get to later, which is just starting to go on as we speak. So before we get into the news, as usual, let's go to Show Me What You've Got. And this has been kind of a nice week, but the problem is there was kind of one really, really sad story, for me at least, that kind of busted in unexpectedly, which is unfortunate. But yeah, that story, in case you haven't heard, Michigan basketball head coach and really, head of the Michigan basketball program and, what thought to be longtime program coach John Beilein accepted a head coaching job with the Cleveland Cavaliers earlier this week. This is quite a shocker, especially for Michigan fans who were pretty confident after he seemed to back out of any possible agreement with the Detroit Pistons before this season. And he was signed to an extension that was pretty large and deservingly large. And, it just seemed like he was going to be up there with the other program coaches, that you think of in college basketball as far as like Izzo, Coach K, Calipari, Boeheim, like all these names that they're gonna retire in the jobs that they're at right now, and they've had those jobs for a long time. It seemed like Beilein was that role to Michigan, and so it's unfortunate to see him taking this head coaching job with the Cavs. I mean, the main motivations, now that it's been a couple days, it's starting to become clear what's going on. Really, what kind of motivated him to move not only was kind of the new challenge of the NBA, which is something that him as a coach, he's probably interested in, but he's has some frustrations with the new kind of one and done time period right now that's really starting to take over his team now. And, lots of players who, would have more of a chance to develop are already leaving. I think, that was super heightened as far as effects go this year with the departure of Iggy Brzdikis, Jordan Poole even, Charles Matthews. Some serious stars on the Michigan basketball team are already going to the NBA. The especially notable one is Jordan Poole, in my opinion, because he's pretty much in and out way faster than anybody probably thought he should be. He basically said he's fine with knowing that he's probably going to be around a second, third rounder. So I guess from a head coaching perspective, if you hear that from him, it's a little bit discouraging. And that combined with, he's known to run such a clean program in a sport where there's not a lot of clean stuff going on, that has to get frustrating, especially when you get so close to winning a national title multiple times and not do it. So I think that's what seems to be motivating him here to take this job with Cleveland. But yeah, huge, kind of unexpected, sad story.
Yeah, I was not expecting that at all when I saw that.
Crazy.
Was it Wednesday or
I had to
Tuesday
read it,
morning, whatever morning that was?
I had to read it like 8 times to understand. Like I thought that Waj's, the ESPN NBA reporter, I thought that his Twitter was definitely
hacked or something.
Hacked or something. I was pretty sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was.
I guess
was what happened.
I guess this probably might be one of his last shots so he can get to go to the next level, being his age.
That's true. I think
upper
that
60s. So
he's got a good opportunity right now. I don't know. I mean, we'll get into the Cavs stuff, after you can talk about it. But yeah, I mean, I have my own set of opinions on that, really.
Yeah, you got a lot of. I mean, I guess being such a Michigan fan that you are, I mean, he's been such a fixture for the program for so long now.
Such a big fixture.
Built that program
up. I thought, retiring.
Yeah.
Name the court after him, like the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Because he built such a great culture at the school. So I mean, that's what he does. I mean, he does leave programs better than when he got there. So he did do that at least.
Yeah.
But
not even being a Michigan guy too, like just watching him on television, like after games, like it seems like an atmosphere anyone would want to be around, like as a recruit or just as a fan of Michigan.
Not a single person I'd want to represent that program more than him. He's just perfect. But I think this is interesting that he took this job specifically. I mean, in my opinion, I just don't see why. I guess because of his frustrations, that's why it kind of rushed him out. But, I mean, I feel like John Beilein, considering he had the job he'd have, I feel like he would be the person to just wait on – I feel like it'd make the most sense for him to just wait on a really, really good, perfect scenario NBA job to come his way. Because I don't think Cleveland is the perfect opportunity, especially considering – that they're in the situation that they're in. I think that that's a good challenge for him, and he likes that. But at the same time, I mean, we are familiar with the Cleveland front office. We're familiar with Dan Gilbert. We know who he is. I just don't know how John Beilein fits in the mold of that.
Yeah, being
franchise.
The caliber of a coach that he is, you think that
he could get
better.
He would go if he gets a better job. But otherwise, I just don't know why he would have such a low tolerance and just be like, I'm going to the NBA.
Such a rebuild now that he's got to endure.
Well, yeah, and I don't get me wrong. I wish all the best to him. I hope he does an amazing job. I hope he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. Honestly, I am now, now that both LeBron is off the Cavs and John Beilein's coaching, I have more reasons to root for a team in Cleveland, which is kind of amazing. So, I mean, hey, credit to him. I hope he does really, really well. But analytically speaking, critically speaking, I just think he's not going to do that well simply because I don't think his coaching style fits the mold of the NBA. As far as I feel like a lot of his leadership is this strong leadership that's built around college kids, growing college kids that, stay for no more than 4 years and they leave. And I think that, a bunch of really, really young millionaires basically are playing basketball who are professional athletes. I just don't think that after maybe 1 year, I could see them doing really, really well this year. I have a feeling that they're going to have a huge spike this year. They're going to do way better than they did last year, and it's going to be like, wow, look at what he did. And then after that, I don't think they're going to do much more, simply because I think after 1 year, the magic of John Beilein, when it's not a college program, is going to wear off. I just don't think that, like we've already talked about NBA players having a hard time being coached in general, and being coached by John Beilein is, another level. They talk about, walking into his practices and it's like he's coaching, first graders. Like that's the way he runs his practices.
The energy he has.
Super focused on fundamentals, like very, very basic basketball, but just an X and O, like.
And guys want to be there too. It's not just
right.
hardcore,
and guys want to do it.
He makes it exciting for them too.
I just don't know if professional athletes want to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm worried about. I mean, I hope that I'm wrong. I really, really do. But I feel pretty confident that things aren't going to go that well. And also, like I said, Dan Gilbert, he just does not seem like the personality that would mesh with John Beilein, knowing the decisions that he's made in the past with the Cavs.
Yeah.
So I mean. I don't know.
We'll see where that goes. Has Michigan
we'll see where that goes, but
candidates to replace him yet?
There's a lot of rumors going around. I mean, as typical with the Michigan search. I heard Ira Weintraub, and he's a radio host in Ann Arbor. He co-hosts a great show called The Michigan Insider. Shout out to them. But what his philosophy basically was, and I pretty much agree with it, is if you're in this position, and it's a pretty well sought position at this point, considering the way that John Beilein
played, yeah.
In the way that they're playing. I think that what they should do right now is they should have like a dream list of coaches. Like they shouldn't expect necessarily to get these coaches, but they're good coaches and they would fit really, really well. Both very, very successful coaches. They run a clean program like Beilein. Pretty hard to find, and lots of them are probably in very, very, good jobs as it is. You go out and you call all those people. Maybe
one of them.
It depends. Well, yeah,
all it takes is one.
Right, exactly. You call all those people. That's probably, I would say no more than like 15 people, maybe probably way less. And once you get through those people, I think that they stay in house and they run an interim season, and then after that they go searching again. But I mean, Michigan coaching searches is something that I'm sadly very familiar with. I mean, I thought that era was kind of over once once Harbaugh happened, basically. That was basically the end of all that. But that was a period in which lots of coaching searches were happening across all the sports. So I mean, it's always a big thing. And there's always lots of candidates that are brought up. But yeah, no, I hope it's a high level coach who can maintain the clean program that Beilein ran, and it's not just a very, very high level like gimmicky coach that I wouldn't want to see that. So I mean,
you said getting an in-house kind of guy. I wouldn't be surprised the class that John Beilein has if he kind of gives Michigan a guy that he would recommend for them.
Yeah, that's true.
How long he's been there now,
I would expect that. I think
and maybe if it works out too for a year, like you said, have an in-house guy, then maybe they hire them, I guess, for the long term.
Exactly.
So
and then that's where
you
you see where you're at after that, basically.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I think they do. I think probably the most nationalized conversation is Juwan Howard for obvious reasons, because he's a former Michigan basketball player, because he's on the Fab Five. I would not recommend that, even though
Yeah, I don't know how that would work.
Even though I was freaking out over Steve Eisman accepting a job with the Red Wings and stuff like that, and next to Jim Harbaugh for being excited about that, like that's like. Obviously, I love former players, but I mean, the reason why I was excited about those two guys was because they actually have the coaching or the GM experience. Juwan is currently coaching with the Miami Heat. He's an assistant. He's probably a decent coach right now. He was a decent basketball player on the Heat for a long time. I don't know if he's necessarily proven himself enough to be the head coach of the Michigan basketball program. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but that's a big conversation. On the other hand, though, one of the people said that was Jay Williams, and I think he gave one of the worst takes I think I've ever seen on Twitter. He said basically that Juwan Howard needs to be hired, and the part that's really funny is he said, like, bring back the culture of that program. Yeah, that's what he said. He said, bring back the culture of that program, which, I mean, obviously, if you listen to anything I just said about this, in the segment so far, I mean, it's pretty obvious that, like,
the culture is fine the way it is right now.
The culture is pretty much as good as it gets, and, is pretty much what Michigan basketball should be in the ideal scenario. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, Beilein,
whoever
like
can bring that back,
bring kind of a similar culture that Beilein.
It's going to be difficult. It's going to be really difficult to find a coach that's both good and runs a clean program like Beilein. And the other thing is, too, like, to continue the recruiting, because I think lots of the recruiting pool for Michigan was just John Beilein being John Beilein, just him. So that'll be kind of difficult, but I don't know. It's a super, super sad story right now.
They'll find somebody, though.
I still can't believe I'm talking about it. It's crazy. I mean, if you told me this a week ago, like, I had no doubt in my mind this guy was gonna, coach the rest of his job and retire here, and that was gonna be the scenario. But yeah, we're diving into a coaching search all of a sudden, and the off season becomes somewhat interesting. Just when I was kind of like putting Michigan sports away, with the exception of softball, they're starting their NCAA tournament, which I love. I love that spring sport. But I mean, as far as Michigan basketball and football and stuff, I was like, I'm not buying in any football offseason hype anymore. I'm done with that. I'm just gonna wait and see what happens. So I thought I was done with the big sports off seasons, and I was kind of putting that away right now and focusing on other stuff. But then we got a coaching search now. So yeah, that's my show me what you've got. What do you have, Michael?
Though also, just to close out, they'll find somebody being Michigan the way they are, but we'll just have to see if it's a whole different culture than Beilein's, or it's kind of a guy that's similar to him. But for mine this week, I'm doing the Houston Rockets. Just losing to them in the playoffs for the 4th time in 5 seasons. It's just been such a disappointment and underwhelming, and a way to end the season for them. And being in the situation they were in with Kevin Durant being out for he was out Game 6, but he was most likely going to be out for that Game 7 if they could have got there. I mean, this was the ideal scenario for them, and
this was it really.
There's just so many questions, like where does the team go from here? I mean, Chris Paul has not been Chris Paul all year long, more or less, and he put up a great Game 6. Not taking that away from him, but going up into that game, he did not show up. And I mean, honestly, James Harden's numbers were great too, but in the clutch, I mean, the team and him, James Harden needed to take that next step to, I mean, I guess improve his resume, that he is an MVP candidate of a player that can succeed too in the playoffs. And I just haven't seen any of that from the Houston Rockets the last couple years. They just can't get over that hump. They just can't get over the Warriors, and they just haven't had that guy. James Harden should be the guy, but he just hasn't. I mean, he's put up great numbers in the games, but just looking, like actually watching the game, he really hasn't, in the big moment, made a shot. And I just don't know where the team goes from here from now on out, because I mean, Chris Paul's not getting any younger. Mike D'Antoni, I mean, he's got to be, I don't know, he's got to be distraught right now after losing to the Warriors 4 times in 5 years. I mean, it's just, what can they do differently that without Kevin Durant that they can, and they can't even get over that hump. So what can they do with Kevin Durant?
It's crazy.
With him on the team. So I don't even know.
I mean, I've been through a lot of tough times as a sports fan, but I can't imagine a scenario like this where you're constantly losing to the same team in the playoffs, and just can't get past them. And then you have the most, the biggest chance this year, and still the same thing happens. It was an interesting end of the series, and we'll talk more about that later, in regards to the Warriors. But I mean, it's crazy.
And they just didn't step on their throats in that first half. Watching that Game 6, I mean, they could have easily gotten off to a way bigger lead, or it was a tied at halftime, but they could have easily gotten to a 5-10 point lead.
I think it comes down to the beginning of the series. I think that's
Game 1 too.
That was just the beginning of the series when we were like, can the Rockets just play themselves back into a series again to make things exciting? When we were saying that, like, that was when, if they had done more in that period, they would have been a lot better off later on, because things picked up anyway. So,
and the bad luck too was complaining about the refs, and that you just can't.
Right.
I mean, I more or less agree with them that the refs, it was very inconsistent, but
in the middle of
the meantime, you have to go out and play, and the refs aren't just going to give you a game, and you have to make your own way in the playoffs, and you just can't complain about a call or a missed shot or anything like that. You just have to go out and play your best basketball, and that's what Klay Thompson, Steph Curry have been doing these last 4 or 5 years for the Warriors, and it just showed again, even without their best player, Kevin Durant, that they can still win without him. And if like I just said, if the Rockets can't win without Kevin Durant in the lineup for them, how do they expect to beat him with him? And they haven't either way. So
more on that later. But I mean, I think that there's a time and place for complaining about refs. The middle of a series is definitely not the time to do it, because you got to move on and play the next game. And this is the time period of NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs, and these playoff schedules are pretty grueling. Not as much for the NBA. There's a little bit more separation. But still, I mean, you're moving on to the next game pretty quickly. So
they were all very close games too in that series.
They're all very close. You just got to move right on, especially because it's a longer series against the Rockets. The Warriors just had to move on here. Like, you don't. No matter what team you are, you do not have time to complain about the refs in this scenario. That just doesn't make sense to me, regardless of how bad it was. Which I agree, it was pretty bad. But at the same time, in the position that you're in that scenario, yeah, that just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to me that the Rockets once again are in the same off-season scenario. I guess it's crazy.
Yeah, I just thought that once I saw I'm like, this could be finally the year to get to the finals.
Right.
Who knows if they win or not against the Bucks or the Raptors? But
because
I just thought, my gosh,
no idea what
this
happens.
is the time, yeah.
No idea what happens once they get past the Warriors because they've never done it, and so yeah, I mean, we're back in the same place again. So
we're gonna have to see where they go from here in the off season. If they make some.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do? Like,
I don't know what's gonna happen.
I don't know what
it's
what
always
you do at this
the off
point.
season's always a lot of drama in the NBA. So
for sure.
Once the games are
Always.
over, the action's not done. So
yeah, that's for sure. And speaking of drama, let's get into news.
Yep.
So as I said, drama. Although actual playoff basketball is taking place right now, the NBA draft lottery took place here in Chicago on Tuesday night. Due to the new system and the heavy desire from all teams involved for the probable overall number one pick, and of course ESPN superstar Zion Williamson, there was a lot of hype to go around. So I mean, this was this is a very, very hyped draft lottery because everybody knows that they want the one pick. So here are the results. Let's just go through them real quick to summarize the whole thing, just real quick. Number 12 goes to the Boston Celtics through the Sacramento trade. And number 11's Miami Heat. Number 10, Charlotte Hornets. Number 9, Minnesota Timberwolves. Number 8, Atlanta Hawks through trade with the Dallas Mavericks. Number 7, Chicago Bulls. Wish I could have said that way later, but we'll talk more about that. Number 6, Phoenix Suns. Number 5, Cleveland Cavaliers. Number 4, Los Angeles Lakers. Number 3, New York Knicks. Number 2, Memphis Grizzlies. And number 1, New Orleans Pelicans. So, yeah, it looks pretty clear here that the New Orleans Pelicans will probably be the team that will draft Zion Williamson, and considering that there was already conversations about Anthony Davis leaving that we talked about already on the show, now this just builds up the drama all of a sudden. I mean, this is kind of a crazy draft lottery result. As I said, drama. So Michael, what are your thoughts on this lottery result that we got here this week?
I mean, honestly, it's just from a Bulls fan perspective, it's just a huge disappointment.
It's just a huge disappointment.
I mean, we can't even tank right, more or less.
I'm just so done with the Bulls at this point. It's so disappointing.
Yeah, and I feel bad for the Knicks too. I mean, this could have been the guy that
they
couldn't. Now they can't even get Ja Morant either, falling to 3.
It's crazy.
They just lose the 2 top prospects.
I don't know when. Like, I feel like there's like a Cubs factor. Here's like my sports fandom at least. Like, watching teams like this suffer, especially when they're from the city of New York, is always fun. And there's like a certain time period where like it's fun to watch. I think it was still fun to watch it this week. But like eventually,
I don't feel too bad for them.
Eventually, there's gonna be a point where there's gonna be like a Cubs effect, and all of a sudden I'm just gonna like them and I'm gonna root for them to do well eventually. I don't know when that will be though, because this was hilarious. I don't know if you've seen any of the fan reaction videos, but it's my new favorite thing.
Guys that got tattoos of Zion on their wrists or whatever, and then getting customized jerseys of him.
My favorite thing though is just the Lakers getting picked number 4, and it looks pretty obvious that they're gonna get number 1, and then they get picked right after the Lakers, and just the reactions are just insane. And of course, being a fan of real true sports journalism, that means I'm not a fan of Stephen A. Smith. So I enjoyed the reaction that was expected to happen. But I'm just so disappointed about the Bulls though. I'm just kind of I'm tired of that really right now. I'm just kind of enjoying the result with the Knicks. But I mean, this is an interesting lottery result because, this new system really, the real question right now is, what does this mean for tanking? What does this mean?
I still think teams are just gonna. You really can't.
I still think
no way
so.
around
I
it.
think that teams are that everybody's saying this is kind of the end of tanking. I've heard other people say this, and this makes more sense to me. It just seems like the end of the 76ers process philosophy. That's what seems like the end of. Like, we're just gonna tank to the bottom every single year and just keep picking up picks. Like, that's not gonna happen anymore.
I don't know.
I just think more general tanking. Like,
I just think that teams would rather. I mean, they want to be great, or I don't think any team wants to be right in the middle of mediocrity.
Right.
I just think that they're either going to. I don't know how it's going to turn out.
I think that there will still be tanking, but I think that it actually probably did something better for tanking as far as like, the Pelicans tanked and they were nearly the worst team, but they got the pick. It does more for more teams in the NBA tanking, which is kind of the irony of it.
It's kind of similar to the Blackhawks too. They were a good enough team that they almost made the playoffs, and then that's kind of what's happening.
So it's becoming this like scenario where like you should still tank, but now it's like better to tank, and you have a better chance of doing well than you did before. But as long as you don't just like expect to just be the worst team in the league every year and pick up picks, that's just not going to happen anymore.
I guess assemble a team that you kind of can compete, but at the same time that the playoffs are probably out of the question.
Right.
I mean, get some excitement, I guess, going for fans. But
it's an interesting system.
We'll have to see how teams adapt now.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting system. We're probably going to get into it on They Don't Scout Like This because, I mean, it's more of a big sports thing as far as the concept of tanking.
I still think that tanking's – I don't think it's going to go away. Just being like the bottom – I mean, more like the teams like the Hawks, I guess, they're going to be better next year, and the Mavs.
Right.
I mean, those guys aren't going to be in the same position like that they were this year getting a high pick. But teams still like the Knicks are not going to be any better next year, most likely, than they were this last year.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big,
so I don't know where they go from.
Just dropped.
Go from there. So it'll be interesting to see how teams adjust to any new. I mean, kind of like system, I guess, assembling the roster, but we'll have to see.
We'll have to see. I mean,
from there.
Even though I don't think it's the end of tanking, I do think that this is as close to the end of tanking as they could. This is like the ideal scenario to potentially end tanking, though, because you got this scenario where everybody wants the one pick. This is not like a normal draft lottery. This is one of the crazy years where there's a very, very desirable player that is, pretty much every aspect of the media is just writing off Zion to go at number one, and that's what's expected. And so there's that very, very desirable number one draft pick that everybody's just chasing. And so, everybody wants nothing but number one. Like, the Knicks got the number 3 pick. They're probably going to get a great player, but they knew that they wanted Zion, and they knew that that was the way to really build a team. And, that's not happening. So, I mean, this is the perfect year to get rid of tanking, even though I don't think it's quite gone, because a team that, tanked, but didn't really tank as much and didn't have as good of a chance nearly as the Lakers, the Knicks, and the Bulls and the Suns, who like fully tanked and got better chances and didn't do that well, and it didn't matter because it was the one pick. So like it all came together to favor not tanking, even though I don't think it will end tanking. Yeah. I mean, this was kind of the perfect scenario from the perspective of an Adam Silver, who probably wanted to get the conversation of tanking being over started. So, I mean, I do think it's interesting.
The Lakers being at 4, just above the Suns even, or the Cavs, or us at the Bulls.
That's what annoys me.
That's just a team I don't like seeing up there.
I mean, I don't know. Stephen Young had a very, very interesting take on it on the Force Scout. He thought that the NBA had it rigged to the Lakers.
I don't know.
I didn't necessarily agree with that. I don't think that's that amazing of a take, to be honest.
I just feel I don't know. I feel like it's kind of just giving back to the Pelicans after all they went through with Anthony Davis this year. We're just talking, like, not like this. We're actually, I mean, it's just hypothetical, I guess. Like,
right. It's a hypothetical thing, and I can understand why people will say this, and they're gonna say it no matter what. By the way, this is just the way that fans work. We're really, really stupid. Like the amount of stuff I've heard about the Michigan coaching search so far is crazy funny. Like. And, looking back at, other big coaching searches, across my sports fandom life is hilarious. And, I feel like these scenarios are the number one, like, things that show, fans are short for fanatic. And, I embrace that as a fan. I think that lots of us do. But, I mean, it is true. But, yeah, the whole philosophy with the Lakers rigging the draft lottery is that basically, everybody was thinking Lakers if they get number 1, then that's like, okay, they rigged it. And basically, since the Lakers got 4, they basically rigged it in a way that wasn't as obvious by getting number 4, right. Which I think is actually kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that argument.
Theories just make us wonder, I guess, now being
there's lots of conspiracies.
Being
here.
where I don't really know. I mean, I just being the Bulls fan that I guess we both are. It's just disappointing being at
I wanted to see
7 for 3 straight years. I mean, Markkanen was a great pick at 7, but I mean, either way,
I don't know.
There's just not the player there that that we can probably like rally around. That like this is gonna be great. That we can trust this guy as a center for our future, a centerpiece for our future. And I just don't see it being where they are.
I wanted to see some more balance in the league, and that's kind of what I'm disappointed by. But I mean, then again, New Orleans is like the smallest market in the NBA, and now they got 2 superstars, and like this will be a little bit interesting. It'll add something. I mean,
so what does Davis do?
No
now?
matter where Zion goes, it's going to be interesting, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I wish it went to. I wish this was a bigger story than it is in regards to which team he's going to. But I mean, yeah, crazy results out of that. So. I think we should probably move on to our next story.
Yep. So we're going to move on now to hockey. So Joey, the Stanley Cup playoffs the conference finals are going on right now. So while in the Western Conference we have St. Louis Blues and the San Jose Sharks remain.
Sharks won in overtime, by the way, on a pretty controversial play.
Yeah.
I'll talk about that.
We'll get into that.
Bit, but yeah.
So it's been a competitive series, and meanwhile the Bruins are in position to sweep in the East. So Joey, is this? I mean, just give me your thoughts. I mean, I guess for the Hurricanes. I know that you followed them a lot throughout this.
Well, I mean,
Stanley Cup playoffs.
I wore the Whalers jersey on the show last week.
So is the series over? You think now with the Bruins being the success that they've had, and it's giving me both a take on, I guess, both.
I hope not. I really hope not. I really think it is, though. I think that the big turning point is Game 3. They're coming into Raleigh, North Carolina. The Bruins, had their 2 wins in Boston, but now they have to take on one of the most, rowdy environments in the playoffs in North Carolina, and they came through it. They got their win. We're going to see what happens tonight and if they do in fact complete the sweep. But I think that that's the turning point that kind of shuts the door on the Carolina Hurricanes. Is the Bruins not only took care of business at home, but they stole one from the Hurricanes in a really, really well thought of home ice advantage. So it's unfortunate. I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm pretty confident here that the Bruins are going to move on through. And I think that this is kind of where the Bruins right now are distancing themselves as the best team in the league. And they look like pretty clear cup favorites all of a sudden. And, yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the Bruins. I mean, I think that there's a lot of cool players in that team. So I guess, original 6, it'd be somewhat fun to see them win a cup. But I mean, yeah, it just looks like the thing that's going to be most clear
they play some
to
great
happen
hockey this
right
whole
now.
Playoffs.
They have, and they've been the one team that I feel like that's been super, super consistent. So credit to the Bruins. But yeah, I think that unfortunately the Carolina Hurricane season is basically over at this point. So yeah, as far as just to talk about that real quick, Blues and Sharks. Yeah, the Sharks went up 2-1 in the series.
I think that's going to shape up to be a really good series.
This is going to shape up to look really, really good, I agree. I mean, yeah.
The Sharks winning Game 1 6-3. Blues taking Game 2 4-2. Then the Sharks taking yesterday's game that you mentioned 5-4 in overtime.
5-4. So there was basically a hand pass that people are complaining about on the last goal. I'm pretty sure that there was. I didn't watch the game, so I'm not 100%
I didn't either.
Sure.
I just saw the highlights in the morning.
But I mean, we're still talking about review now. Oh my gosh, this doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know how many podcasts we talked about review.
We've talked about the refs. Unfortunately, way more than we probably should at this point. I mean, honestly, like my overall philosophy with the refs, I feel like the refs, and I should have mentioned this on the review segment that we did last week. The refs should have press conferences like coaches or players. I fully believe that they should be like as public of figures and like as much of celebrities as the coaches and players are in all sports, and
they should be held responsible for
and
their
they should be held
actions,
responsible. Like they need to be able to have an answer
not
and
just walk away. After
not
the
just
game's
walk
over,
away.
yeah.
Be this faceless guy who did things that really, really affected very, very big games.
Outcomes of games. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So there was a bad call. I'm pretty sure that went against. That was against the Sharks earlier. That was not called. Yeah. So there was a penalty that probably should have been on the Blues, or something that happened that favored the Blues, or yeah, that favored the Sharks. Yeah, the Sharks. That was not called. So the Blues kind of got away with something, and then the Sharks got away with something with the goal. So there's a little bit more balance than I think people think. But yeah, I mean, just the idea of an overtime goal in the playoffs. That's a big deal. That's the end of a game, and the fact that there was a hand pass that led to it. That's bringing up lots of conversations about officiating. So, I mean, it's something interesting. I'm wondering how this affects them, the way that they officiate the rest of the series, because we're gonna have to see how that happens.
It's always officiating.
I'm wondering
because
like the playoffs are always interestingly done as far as how they play, because generally fighting is basically taken out of the game from the player's perspective. All of a sudden, everybody's cleaned up their game. They're not going to fight anymore. They can't afford those 2-minute penalties in the middle of playoff games. And then on the other hand, the refs generally, I feel like, are pretty strict for most of the game. And then once you get late into the third and on, they basically don't call anything, especially in overtime. They just, everything goes. As long as you don't kill someone, you're not going to get in the box. But we're going to have to see how this changes things, because this is such a big story. So, yeah, I mean, lots going on in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. Unfortunately, I think the Hurricanes are done. Hopefully they show some signs of hope tonight, but yeah. And then, I think the Sharks are probably coming out of the other series. But yeah,
that'll be a good series. But yeah,
we'll see what happens. Either way,
whoever makes the finals, it'll be, I think, a really good series.
A really good series no matter what. I mean, it'll be fun. But yeah, let's move on. We already talked about the New York Knicks, so we might as well show all the other dysfunctional New York news in a pretty funny football story. So if you happen to be a Knicks and Jets fan, it's been a really fun week. And the reason why I say it is because the New York Jets fired the GM and VP of player personnel, Mike McCagnon, followed by the new head coach, Adam Gase, basically declaring that he's the leader of everything now for the Jets for the time being. And it creates the familiar headline of the New York Jets descending into chaos. Michael, what do you think the Jets are thinking right now? This is just a crazy headline.
What I don't understand is why they let him stay there for so long. I mean, he's the guy that drafted Christian Hackenberg in the second round in 2016, I believe the year was.
He's a fun quarterback, but not that great anymore. That's
he
for
was
sure.
a college guy and didn't translate at all to the next level.
Not even close.
But, I mean, then he got to pick, of course, Sam Darnold, which he could be a very good quarterback. The jury's still out on him, and he's only had 1 year. And, I mean, he showed really good signs last year that he could be a good quarterback in the NFL. But, I mean, I still just don't get that. I mean, he hasn't had a lot of other success. And then if they don't think that, I mean, the team hasn't had any success at all. I mean, he's picked some good players. I mean, it's kind of fallen into his lap too, like Williams this year, and then Jamal Adams last year in the draft. I mean, he's gotten guys that, being how bad they've been, he just gotten guys to fall right into his lap, and it's not really him just picking good players or making good picks. They just fallen right into his lap. So I just think that if the Jets didn't think that Adam Gase or whoever the ownership, because I mean now Gase is running the show, if they didn't think that this guy was their general manager of the future, then why would they keep him this long?
It's terrible timing. It's so bad.
Maybe if you want to fire him, then fire him when the season's over, or way before all the draft. I mean, all the prospects. I mean, evaluations happen, and I mean, you just can't. This is such a bad. I mean, I have no words for this. More or less, like how do you?
It's just such a
fire a
bad
GM
timing.
in the middle of May,
and then the circumstances
right after a draft,
just get,
I don't understand.
The circumstances just get more and more better over time once you look into it, because the big thing is that happened with the Jets is they got Le'Veon Bell, right?
And I think they didn't agree with that, right? Gase and
exactly. Gase basically said that he basically took the Ryan Peters running backs are overrated take, but the thing that he did that was different was he basically told the GM directly that he was upset that they got Le'Veon Bell, and he was upset that they spent that much money. And he vocally said to the owners and to the GM I'm pissed off that you had that much money spent on this running back. And yeah, so basically he somehow the GM's own subordinate and the head coach got him fired. This basically, I mean, this is what's basically happening is that Adam Gase is gifted an extremely good running back, and he complains about it, and somehow he convinced someone higher up on the pecking order with the Jets to get fired. So now he's basically in charge of everything, and I'm sure he's an okay coach, but I mean he hasn't coached a game for the Jets yet. We don't know how this is going to go. It's
kind of like John Gruden, I guess, that
crazy
kind of nightmare situation that happened in his first year. Just, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Mike Mayock's the guy.
It's kind of analogous to the whole Khalil Mack thing, yeah, for sure.
Just not having just having a lot of attention, that unwanted attention towards the team, that management,
and
which is never a good
the coach
look.
kind of taking an overly vocal position on something.
Yeah, and we'll have to see.
Really.
I mean, we'll have to see if Gruden. I mean, I think that I don't totally agree with his picks that he made in the draft, but just being able to stockpile the picks that he did, I think that he should be, applauded for that. Honestly, I think that was
We'll
the best way to go
Yeah.
to get picks. But trading Khalil Mack, I don't know. But getting those other picks like Amari Cooper might have been worth it. But we'll have to see from there. I'm just getting off topic now. But
Yeah.
I think to go back to your point for the Jets, I think that it's just kind of funny, honestly.
It is funny.
The state of the New York sports teams.
What more do you expect from the Jets? But, the Jets
Nothing
and the
is
Knicks,
going
to
well
be
in New
honest,
York right now. The
I mean,
Yankees are banged up. Every player, I think their injured list right now is probably they could honestly field the whole team, and it'll be a really good team that they have on the DL. If you're a Giants fan, they're in total mess right now with the whole Daniel Jones situation.
Daniel Jones thing. It's
and then
wild.
the Knicks, of
Every
course,
single team.
not getting Zion most likely. He won't.
Yeah.
He's gonna go number one.
You could
Zion,
just keep on going. The Rangers are terrible.
Yeah.
From a hockey standpoint.
It's just
the Islanders sweep the Penguins, have their series start up really well, and then they move. They have to play the rest of the playoffs in Brooklyn. They move from the Nassau Coliseum out on Long Island into Brooklyn, and the fans don't show up, as we've known for a long time about those two sites, and they get swept, And then what else are we missing here? The Brooklyn Nets are nothing.
Yeah.
Non-existent.
I guess they had a better year this year, but
they had an okay year. But when is the last time you've heard that name? Honestly.
It's just a mess right now. But I don't.
What a crazy
being
time.
New York, having all the success they've had in the
right
past, I don't feel too bad for them.
Yeah,
so,
I don't feel incredibly bad. I gotta be honest. I feel like they've had it off pretty well for a long time.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Mets are third in the East right now, behind the Braves.
The Mets too. I forgot. I couldn't forget about them.
They're average. They're okay.
But being the Mets,
that
they
seems to be the best scenario going on in New York right now. So that's crazy.
They've had their fair share of struggles since the World Series too. So it's just a mess right now for all New York teams. And the team that I want to be good though is the Knicks, because I always think the league's always a lot more fun when the Knicks and the Lakers. Honestly, I hate to say it, but when those two teams are good, like the Bulls too, Lakers, all those big market teams, it's fun.
Maybe that's why I don't like the NBA guys.
I just think that I don't know.
Maybe if you guys want me to like the NBA, you got to root for the Knicks to win, and maybe all of a sudden I'll think it's cool.
Like you said, they could turn into the Cubs eventually, the lovable loser kind of.
There'll be a point in which there'll be a turning point, and they'll become the Cubs of the NBA, and I'll start to root for them. But I don't know what it'll even be.
Then once they get good, then they'll be hated again. So
right, it'll just be waves, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens in all New York teams.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on to our next story.
Yeah.
Which goes into actual basketball.
Yeah. So I guess going to the actual basketball court, because the basketball is going on after, of course, after they picked the lottery teams. There was a game that night, Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. So there is basketball still going on. We talked about the Warriors against the Rockets, but now we'll get into the Western Conference Finals. So the Warriors started, like I just said, against the Portland Trail Blazers. Game 1, they got the victory, 116-94, a dominant win for them. So Joey, what do you think that is going to happen? Without Kevin Durant, can the Warriors last without him, or do they need him? They look pretty good in that first game. So what do you think?
This is so funny.
Are they better without him, or what?
This is hilarious. I find this great because this is such an ESPN headline. We rip on ESPN so much on the show, but this is such a we need a story to cover. So we're just gonna look at this and we're just gonna be like, oh my God, are the Warriors actually better without Kevin Durant? But then you actually look into the stats. They're 28-1 with Steph Curry and without Kevin Durant. That's kind of crazy. I didn't even notice that.
That's regular season games?
This is just so far this year. So far this year, just in general, they're 28-1. That's crazy. I don't know who they played. I haven't looked into that stat. It might be horribly inflated, but it is kind of funny. And I think maybe Kevin, and I don't think it's anything against Kevin Durant. I don't think if anybody's gonna say oh, it's because Kevin Durant isn't a good basketball player or whatever, they're totally wrong. That's not why. I think the main reason why is maybe the Golden State Warriors have out super teamed themselves, and they basically just have so many good players they can't balance themselves out. And so if they get one out of the system, especially Kevin Durant, who kind of I feel like is just an add-on superstar. At least most NBA fans think that. They don't like Kevin Durant for that reason. If you take him out of the system, all of a sudden you got the Splash Brothers moving in tandem and doing what they've done before Kevin Durant came, and all of a sudden the team starts to flow way better, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe the thing is that, if you don't have an overload of superstars in your starting five, then you'll be able to move a lot better as a team because as I've said many times in the show, and the reason why I don't like the NBA is because there's this whole philosophy of all these superstars, they need to get their touches on the ball. Like they need to have, you know, X amount of chances a game, and it's just like it's like an obligation that every player, you know, gets the ball. It's crazy. But like that's kind of the way that the NBA sets up. It's not just let's try to win the game over everything no matter who scores. There's not that much unselfishness in the NBA right now. And so if you get a star player who needs those touches out of the game, it clears up obligations, and the actual goal of winning starts to go higher up on the list. So
was that actually a headline on ESPN?
Yeah, no, lots of people are talking about it. Like maybe the Warriors are better without Kevin Durant. I mean, it's
a situation to be in though. If you're the
what a situation
Warriors.
to be in.
My
But
gosh.
like,
I would take Kevin Durant any day.
I would take Kevin Durant, and you know, I think you know what they should do is they should just keep riding this out, and the second that they lose, they should just bring him back. I think that's
not his
that's
attitude.
what
I don't like.
That's what I recommend.
The player Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
is phenomenal.
He's just so good. But I mean, maybe he just. It's so much. This is just crazy. It's so much goodness that it kind of gets in the way of them actually being productive as a team.
I wish the Bulls could be in that kind of same shoes as them.
Can the Bulls please do that? Yeah, that'd be nice. That those are some good problems.
My gosh.
But yeah, I mean, I think that maybe what I recommend is you keep KD out until they lose. Well, you know, or
if he needs to rest up,
or he's healthy,
rest. Yeah.
whatever. You let him rest until he's healthy. Once he's healthy, you wait until they lose. Whatever happens first.
It's just so unfair.
If they lose before, before he's healthy, then the second he's healthy, you put him back in. If they lose after he's healthy, you wait until they lose. But basically, the second that the Warriors lose and they don't look good without him, then you throw him back in, and all of a sudden they have Kevin Durant again, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, kind of a great problem for the Warriors to have for sure. That's a crazy headline.
I would never agree with that decision to let him go to Golden State, though. I just feel like it's so unbalanced.
It's terribly unbalanced.
We could get into another argument with the league about that for another day. But
I mean, you guys know I don't like the NBA.
But
that's one of the main reasons.
Yeah, we both don't. I mean, good for him. I mean, I guess he wanted to go to a winning atmosphere. He got it. But I mean, I just think that his reputation took a big hit for doing that. Just having to go to a team like the Warriors to get his ring. I just think that it was a bad look for him. But I mean, I don't know. It's just hard to watch the NBA now. I mean, Eastern, until we get to the finals, that'll be fun for the Eastern Conference to watch, to see if the Raptors or the Bucks gets out of that. But it just seems like every year now, like I talked about the Rockets, like 4 or 5 years they've lost to the Warriors in the playoffs. It just seems like that we just know what's going to happen.
It's crazy.
It's just scripted every year that the Warriors, you can pencil them in for an NBA Finals appearance and most likely a victory. So I don't really know what to think of it. I just think we kind of know what's going to happen more. I just think the Bucks or the Raptors, they can't compete with a rested up Kevin Durant, even if he's still hurt, even with the guys they already got on the floor like Clay and Steph and Draymond and all those other guys they got. I just think that it's going to be an unbalanced, yet again, kind of finals. And right now in the Western Conference Finals, I think that's going to be a big mismatch for the Golden State Warriors. So I just think that, yeah, I don't know. We're have to see where it goes, but
yep. And then lastly, we've been waiting for this particular story for a long time, as you can see what I'm wearing. So yeah, after a lot of waiting, not as much as usual actually, considering the schedule realignment, but it's been a little bit of waiting. America's favorite golfer course is basically America's favorite golfer is beginning his first round of the PGA Championship at Bethpage Black on Long Island as we speak. Right now he's through 4 right now, and he's +2 still. He double bogeyed on the first hole, and he's basically been parring out every hole from now on. But yeah, Michael, you picked him to win the Masters.
I did,
and you somehow got that right. I don't know how.
Yeah, I was just
that was amazing.
I'm like, Tiger, this could be the comeback. He played well in a couple of events previous to leading up to the Masters, so I was like, Tiger, maybe this is a shot. And hey, it was.
It's crazy.
And I think that my wild card pick for this week, I'm just staying with the older golfers. I'm taking Phil.
Okay.
I just think that Phil, I don't know, this could be the last hurrah for him.
Keep picking that,
and
yeah.
I'm just going with the older generation of golfers that my dad is a big follower of. I mean, still that's kind of his generation of golfers. But hey, I mean, Koepka's kind of our generation of golfers.
Right, and he's, we'll get to that later. But
who are you gonna pick, Joey?
Yeah, I said, I'm thinking it's gonna be Koepka.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna pick him again. I mean, you guys know I picked him before the Masters, so I think I have some bigger plans going on by picking him again. But you guys know who I'm rooting for.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I think that there's a great generation of young golfers right now, and I think that it's a very, very tough leaderboard to win, and whoever's going to win it is, a good golfer every single time. Took a lot for Tiger to do it at the Masters. It's going to take a lot for anyone to do it at the PGA. I think it'll be Brooks Koepka. I'm rooting for the thing that happened when I picked Brooks Koepka last time to happen again. But it's going to be a fun PGA. I mean, Bethpage Black is I misspoke and said America's favorite course, but I mean, it's considerably up there on the list for American golf courses. Is one of the favorites as far as just distance. It's a cool course. There's a lot of history there. Tiger won the PGA in 2002 there. We've talked about his schedule going forward and how it kind of favors him with courses he's been experienced with. So I mean, if he's played it and that type of thing, it's a pretty historic course. If majors are taking place over the years there. So the PGA is back there right now, and it's going to be fun. The weather's going to be a factor, obviously, since it's on Long Island. But it should be a fun week. I mean, what the heck? Tiger just won the Masters, and here's the next major just a month after. I mean, I watched them tee off, and the crowd is already crazy, and it's 8:25 in the morning there. It's only 7:25 for us. So it's gonna be fun to watch, and I think I'll be happy as long as we get a good leaderboard of a mix of young and experienced players. If we can see some red on Sunday on the leaderboard, then that'd be pretty cool.
And it's just awe-inspiring too, like you just said, with the younger generation, like we saw at the Masters, but the guys just watching Tiger.
Right, like that's my favorite
guys
part
they've grown
too.
up watching their whole childhood, just seeing guys like Tiger and then Phil, other golfers that they've just that are still playing. They're
actually getting intimidated by them all of a sudden, like whoa.
Yeah.
Like knowing what it feels like to be up against them when they're good.
Like I forget which golfer it was, but he was just playing with him. Who played with Tiger on the last day? Do you remember?
We got Molinari.
Was it Molinari?
And
I think
Tony Finau.
One of them said, I remember they're like, this was I've had wins in my career, but just playing with Tiger was probably the greatest moment that I've ever experienced.
And he's in the group with Molinari again and Koepka.
That's cool.
Today, so that's what's going on right now.
That's a good pairing.
They're starting on the back nine. I don't know why. I think it's a weather thing. I think that's why they're doing it that way. But hey, last time there was a weather thing, it turned out pretty well for Tiger. So
and I'm sure attendance is going to be way up this week with Tiger
attendance,
coming off.
They're preparing for craziness, and it's already pretty crowded. So
hopefully the weather can stay okay though. I didn't check if that was is that going to be a factor. Did they say
weather's weird here? I mean, in there, let's see.
It's been wacky all around the country more or less.
It's just been weird.
Spring.
Like, is it even spring? I don't even know.
I know today's like the last couple of days have been actually nice, and it's supposed to drop tomorrow. So what?
Okay, so
what
it's
about
looking
over there?
like 15% of rain today potentially. It's somewhat on the forecast.
Let's see.
Hey,
it worked out.
It peaks
like
at 32 at 1 o'clock. It looks a lot more likely in the morning tomorrow on Friday. On Saturday, it looks pretty nice. Sunday, lots of rain. So
hey, it worked out last time for Tiger.
It's a weird day. It's a weird week. I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, it's typical when you're playing in May on Long Island. I mean, you're gonna expect some weird weather if you just come up north. Really, at any time this year, it's weird. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Tiger's still through 4 as we speak right now. You guys are gonna get this way later in the day, so you guys already know how the first round went. But yeah, he's +2 right now. So we're probably going to be following that during the school day and, try not to get too distracted. But we'll see what happens. Okay, so that was news. We're not doing a Let's Sit Down this week. We're planning on Peter Elliott being a future guest.
Yeah, next week, most likely.
Most likely next week. We'll
Someday.
Get him on eventually. Yeah. But, we hope that happens. We got a lot to talk about. So let's move right into They Don't Scout Like This. Okay, for They Don't Scout Like This, we're just talking about something very, very simple here. The whole draft system tanking thing that comes with the lottery. We're just going to talk about, what we think, the best draft system would be to create kind of a solution to these problems. I think that right now, at least just speaking for me, I think that the NBA, I even though the new system is making fans mad, I think that the results were just surprising, and they were kind of the exception, not the norm.
Yeah. So
I think that this system is actually pretty good. And I would definitely, vouch for, this continuing. I've always heard many draft philosophies. For me, I've always heard Mike Greenberg talk about his greenie method, I think is what he actually calls it. he talked about this for Mike and Michael for a long time. Basically, if you're you're the best team that doesn't make the playoffs, you get the first pick. And I've heard about this, and this is interesting to me. It's always been an interesting conversation. I don't 100% agree with it because I think it still would create too much imbalance, but I think that it's speaking in a good way because I think that the best non-playoff teams should get a little bit of a boost, not necessarily just to automatically get the first pick. But I think that maybe it would be interesting if the order went the worst team gets the first pick and the 3 worst teams get the first 3 picks and then it went to the best team to not make the playoffs. If they broke up the order in that interesting way, I'd be interested to see how a draft would look if they did that and how it would affect the league long term. But
I guess
the draft lottery.
I can see that though, because
I think it's working out pretty well.
Kind of like Greeny's method, I guess. I mean, it would add more teams quickly to being more competitive,
right?
Which I think is probably what he was going for there.
That's 100% his purpose. So
I mean, I don't know. I think the way it is now, honestly, is probably the best scenario.
I think they've figured it out a little bit here.
Yeah.
If you're the worst team, you don't have that much of a chance of getting the first pick. You just have a better chance than everybody else. So
I don't know.
I don't know. I
We'll
kind of like
see
the
where
system
teams
right
go,
now.
but
Yeah, is that kind of where you are right now?
I think I kind of like Greeny's idea, to be honest, but I don't know. I think people would really not like that
for
at all.
1 year. It would be a ton of fun, and then after that, I feel like it would start to get.
But of course, there would still be an imbalance even either way. Even there's going to be teams that are.
It's all about figuring out how to
aren't
find
gonna
that balance.
Like any kind of system, so.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, fans are going to complain.
Yeah.
Fans are going to say that the draft was rigged, and etc. But that's just kind of the way fans work. But yeah, that's our days don't scout like this. And let's move into your scouting. So on your scouting today, we have one call that we've been waiting on to use on the show. It's on a pretty big topic this week, so let's take a listen. Hopefully here, if I can get it up.
Hey guys, long time listener, first time caller. So as we all know, big time commit Rylie Mills just committed to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Do you think he's better than Khalil Mack right now? Let me know your thoughts.
Okay, so yeah, as you guys may have heard, Rylie Mills, Notre Dame, big commit out of Lake Forest High School. Super exciting. We congratulated him last week. Super big story. We've been waiting on this decision for a long time if you're in any way associated with Lake Forest High School. So this is a big one. Of course, I was expecting some type of call from Peters or Carson about this. And we're deciding to compare him to Khalil Mack, and I think that it would be a pretty decent comparison. I mean, we'll see how his college career goes. But, I mean, we're talking about, Riley's a giant defensive end. Khalil Mack is a giant defensive lineman. So we're going to have to see how his presence works. It'll be interesting to see how he works into a college team because he's been notable, especially just size-wise. He's been just huge. And, the only reason why I don't think he's made such a huge impact over the last year is because teams are just so prepared for him at this point that they just throw as many guys as they can on him, which is just crazy. I'm pretty sure I saw once just watching a game earlier this year, there were 3 guys on him, not even joking. He had 3 guys trying to block him. So that's what the last season has been for him, is that everybody's been so prepared for him that he hasn't made a super big impact simply because everybody's just so ready. So it'll be interesting now once he moves into the college football in 2 years, and he's dealing with guys that are a little bit closer to his size. It'll be interesting to see how that affects things and how much of a presence he makes. But hey, if his name's getting called, then I could definitely see the Khalil Mack comparison, because I think that's the biggest thing about Khalil Mack is just pure pocket presence. If he's there and it every single play, then that's Khalil Mack. So if Rylie can do that in his college career, then I think that this is going to be a very, very good comparison going forward.
It's a pretty nice comparison too
it's a pretty good comparison to have.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be cool to see
I'm
Rylie
at
the college level. I guess just being the same age that he is. I mean, just for all of us sports fans. I mean, wherever we go, it'll be cool being the program that he's at. That eventually we can see him.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
At Notre Dame being the kind of program they are, always being on the big game, the big games on Saturday nights for college football. I mean, that'll be cool if he can if he can be a factor for them and
That
just
would
being
be
from the
really,
same
really
high school as us, that'll be pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah,
So.
they're not currently on the Michigan schedule going past this year, but it would be kind of cool. I guess I'll be in college too, so we'll see whatever happens. But if I'm still using the season tickets and heading out there, it would be cool to see a member of the Lake Forest High School class of 2020 out on the field. So that would be super, super cool. But yeah, big comparison to Cleo Mac there. And that's kind of
slushy comparison there.
Yeah, it's great comparison. But make sure you send in your questions as always. 224-544-9330. Really, we need some more calls going in the future here. We have just a short segment this week. It's fine though, because we made everything else super long. Kind of we rambled a lot, but that's the nature of a podcast anyway. Let's go right into Just Wait Till Next Week. And for me, for Just Wait Till Next Week, a few things actually. First of all, can't wait to see what happens in this PGA. We've already talked about it. I got Brooks Koepka. Second of all, more Cubs baseball. Just so good lately.
Darvish pitched well yesterday, so we have hope. We have hope.
He pitched decently. They unfortunately lost in extras. I did get a chance to watch the end of that game. That was a little bit of a disappointment.
Carl.
But, they're not going to win every single day, but they're winning pretty much every day. So, that's pretty good. Kyle Hendricks is kind of the main thing for me. Such a good pitcher. Three hits allowed and 3 hits at the plate. That's a pretty good day for a National League pitcher. That's insane. We've just talked about the 81 pitch thing. That was already crazy, and just this too.
He's had a remarkable year this year.
But yeah, that too, and then
after a slow start.
Unfortunately we didn't get that many calls this week, but if we were, I would assume that this would be mentioned. Opening day is tomorrow for the Chicago Dogs. It's going to be the world's largest gathering of wieners. Yes, it is a hot dog costume giveaway. Hopefully Carlos Zambrano starts the season off. We'll see what happens.
He pitched yesterday, 1 inning.
He did
2 strikeouts.
Okay.
And I think he might have gotten a hit too. I think I saw.
We'll see what happens. I might have to get out there for a Zambrano start sometime this summer. It would be fun.
Who knows if he can get back? If he can get back in the major league track, but it all starts with the Dogs, and the Dogs can say they had a major leaguer on their team. So
that's
who knows?
True.
We'll have to see where they go.
We'll see with that. But yeah, Michael, what's your Just Wait Till Next Week?
Hopefully Phil Mickelson can win. So I'm right for both majors this year.
That's true.
That would be pretty awesome if he can pull it out. I'm kind of going with the older generation, like we talked about for golfers, and I think it's kind of cool the way they've played so well recently. Like Tiger, of course, in the Masters, and even Phil played pretty well too at the last major at the Masters. So who knows what's gonna happen? That'll be fun to watch. I always like watching the final day of any major. It's always fun to watch. But also, the Cubs too. We're going to talk about them next week. Like you said, Kyle Quintana's been great. Cole Hamels has been great. The whole staff has been great.
It's been a good run right
Darvish,
now.
He had a good. I'm really optimistic now for him.
For
no
sure.
walks is the biggest thing.
Hey, if you can get Darvish to not walk.
Then we got basketball too next week. We'll see what happens there. I'm making my prediction right now. Bucks versus Warriors. What do you think, Bucks Warriors?
That seems to make sense to me, and I feel like that's going to be a fun series. As usual for me, I normally wait until the finals before I'm watching NBA playoff basketball religiously, and that'll be the case because Bucks Warriors would be kind of fun just to see what happens there. Yeah. Especially with a small team like the Bucks coming through. I mean, we're right by it, so. Yeah.
That's cool. So
that's all we got today. Congrats for sticking through and listening to this whole thing. We appreciate it as always. Subscribe to listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, RadioPublic. Give us a positive review. That's important. Subscribe to watch on YouTube. Still trying to catch up to our goal, guys. We're still slipping away. So we need our subscribers. At this point. One day we're getting there.
We're getting to the end though. So
yeah, we're getting to the end, guys. It's
days.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know how this show will live on in the future. Hopefully in some way, but we'll see. And of course, as always, read the Forest Scout and get ready for another week of Sports Scouts next week. And in the meantime, we'll keep on scouting. See you guys later.
Welcome to Sports Scouts. I'm Joey Goodsir. And we are joined by plenty here